So, today we are going to be looking at how to graph a linear equation. At this time, you should have your MJ open and ready to go. In just a moment, you'll need to pause this and get a few things labeled right now on your in your MJ. If you choose to use graph paper, then that would be just fine. If you don't have any, no worries. We're just going to do some basic graphing right now. Here's what you need to put in your MJ is you'll want a coordinate grid with all 4 quadrants. And then each one is going to be represented by 1 unit. So for example, this would be a 1 right here. This is a 2 right there. And so on and so forth. Going up is a positive 1. The next one is a positive 2. And so on and so forth. Be careful you don't skip a line. Now these become negative 1, negative 2, and so forth. And lastly, this is a negative 1, negative 2, and so on down there. Secondly, once you get your graph set up, what you're going to need is a table that goes from negative 3 up to 3. And this is actually called an XY table, which I don't have labeled. I apologize. X goes on top. The Y goes down below. So like I said, right now, you need to hit pause. That's just fine. Get your graph set up. Get your table set. Okay, we're going to look at the equation y equals negative 2x plus 3. Okay, so first off, if we're taking a look at this equation, what we're going to need to do is set up a table. And I choose the points negative 3 to 3 because we want to make sure we include some negative numbers with our graph as well as the positive numbers. You can technically choose any numbers that you like as long as you choose some negatives and some positives. In class, I typically use the negative 3 to 3, but like I said, you can choose what you want. So here's how this works. First, you take this first number, this negative 3, and we're going to put it in for x right here. So my new equation becomes y equals a negative 2 times a negative 3. Remember, we're going to write times. This is negative 2 times x. So we do negative 2 times 3. We're going to replace it. Plus 3. We simplify, multiply first. I get y equals negative 2 times negative 3 gives me a positive 6 plus 3. And therefore, y must equal 9. What that means then, when x here was a negative 3, the y then is equivalent to 9. The purpose of this table is we're trying to find some coordinate points that we can start to graph here. For example, now, my first 2 points, and I'm going to highlight them right here, this section, if I rewrite that as a coordinate point, that's going to look like a negative 3, comma, 9. I'll highlight that so you can see the connection. Excuse me. Okay. Whoops. There we go. All right. So I'm going to first, and you can choose to fill out your table completely first or do 1 point at a time. I guess I'll just show you how to do that first. So my first point is a negative 3. So I go left 3 and then up 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Ooh, barely fit right there. And then I put a dot. You'll notice, make sure it's right on the corner of the grid. There's my first point. I'm going to erase so that I have some more room here. Remember, you can always pause it or go back if you need to copy down what I had before. I need a larger eraser. There we go. There we go. Careful. Okay. Next up, we're going to need another point. So now I'm going to take this point. If x was negative 2, let's fill it in here for negative 2. Y is equal to negative 2 times negative 2. We'll replace that. Plus 3. Y then equals negative times a negative is a positive 4 plus 3. And y equals 7. So then when x was negative 2, y was 7. I can go ahead and plot that. I go left 2, 1, 2, up 7. There's my second point. Again, I'll erase this. And next point. Can you guess? Negative 1, then we're going to put that in for x. And some of you might be noticing a pattern right now. Here we go. So y is equal to a negative 2 times a negative 1 plus 3. Now, yes, you'll also notice that this was a fairly basic equation, so it's alright in terms of showing your work. I would, for sure, you need your table, and in this case, you won't probably need to do all 3 steps. You could just skip from the first to the last. And therefore, when x was negative 1, y was 5. So negative 1, up 5. And then I erase this. At this point, hopefully you've started going ahead of me and you have your table, if not completely filled out, but fairly close to it. I'm just going to skip through the next ones where I plug in the rest of these answers. You can double check because we should end up when x was 0, y should be 3. When x is 1, y is 1. When x is 2, y is a negative 1. And when x is 3, y is a negative 3. Alright, so now let me get the rest of these points on there. And hopefully you'll see the pattern because what we know about linear solutions, linear equations is that they should make what shape? Anyone? A line. So once you're done, you should hopefully be able to draw. See if this works on my. There we go. Slowly but surely. Come on back. There we go. And of course, go ahead. We've only chosen, remember, we stopped at negative 3. We could have chosen negative 4 or even negative 10, so that's why I do my arrow. And then there's an arrow down there. We could have gone a little bit higher. So that's essentially how you graph a linear equation, just kind of in the basic form, this y equals mx plus b, which we'll talk a little bit more about what those numbers mean, and what those letters mean. I have 2 quick examples, and these are the horizontal lines and the vertical lines. If you have something where you just have, for example, y equals 4, and then another one, x equals 3. Okay, one of those lines is a horizontal line and one is a horizontal. One is a horizontal, one is a vertical. And so here's how you kind of go about doing that. For this first one, if you have y equals 4, that means first I know that when y is 4 is right here. Okay, well, what about when x is 1? Oh, y is also 4. What about when x is 6 or 5? Whichever one that one, it's also 4. If I go in the negative route, y is always going to equal 4. And therefore, I end up with a horizontal line. For x equals 3, well, that means first, I'll draw a different color. I find x is 3. Well, when y is 1, x is still 3. When y is 8 way up here, x is still 3. Throw some negative numbers on there. And x is still 3. We can draw a beautifully straight line. Get your arrows through both of them. and therefore x equals 3 is actually going to be a vertical line. So I'm going to move this guy underneath. Come on, catch up. There we go. Vertical line. Lastly, if you have any further questions or want some more help with this, if you go to Khan Academy on my website, I have a link to Khan Academy. Once you get there, search for graphing linear equations, and he's got some practice problems that you can do there. Also, this is the lesson out of our textbook for Big Ideas. Again, I have a link right next to the left of my website. Go to 2.1, Chapter 2, Lesson 1, and do the lesson. Don't look for the exercises. Those are the practice problems. The lesson is where it's going to give you some more practice and examples. With that said, be sure to bring in this first example to class tomorrow. This one right here, I'm going to be checking for that in your MJ. Have a great evening.